The story begins on a night no one expected. It was supposed to be an ordinary awards event, with celebrities arriving in glamorous outfits and doing polite interviews. But nothing about this night would be ordinary, because this was the night when a single look from Freen and Becky would change everything about how fans saw them, how the industry viewed them, and how their relationship would be questioned for years to come. The venue was full, lights were bright, and the hum of excitement filled the air. Fans crowded outside, holding banners with Freen's name, holding signs declaring their love for Becky, and waiting for even a glimpse of Thailand's most powerful girls' love duo. It had been months of rumors, months of subtle tension, and months of fans wondering if the two were drifting apart or simply keeping something quiet. No one imagined that tonight would give them the answer they had been waiting for. Freen arrived first, stepping out of the black car in a white suit that immediately sent social media into meltdown. Fans yelled loudly, cameras flashed, and her name echoed through the barricades. She looked calm, elegant, and composed. But those who watched closely said she seemed a little on edge, as if waiting for someone. Her eyes wandered, not randomly, but searching. The fans noticed, and they whispered among themselves, wondering what or who she was looking for. Becky arrived several minutes later in a soft champagne gown that shimmered under the lights. The moment she stepped out, everything changed. The crowd screamed louder, and even security had to tighten formation. Becky waved, smiling gently, but behind that smile there was something else, a kind of nervous energy that only longtime fans could spot. She knew who was waiting inside. She knew this night would bring the two of them face to face in front of the entire country. Both stars walked into the hall separately. They greeted journalists, gave short interviews, and posed for photos. It was professional. It was normal. But fans watching from the live stream noticed something odd. Every time Becky finished answering a question, she kept glancing toward the side of the room. Each time Freen spoke, she subtly turned her head, as if checking whether someone had entered. It was building, a kind of invisible tension that everyone could feel but no one could name. Then came the moment. Inside the main ballroom, the organizers seated the actors according to category. Freen was already in her seat. She looked calm, focused on her phone for a moment. Then Becky walked in. Cameras followed her closely, and fans screamed through the livestream chat as she approached the VIP section. But what no one expected was what happened when the two women finally made eye contact. It lasted less than a second, but it was all that was needed. Freen looked up first. Becky turned in her direction. Their eyes locked, and something flashed between them, something subtle, something strong, something real. It wasn't the smile that gave it away. It wasn't a dramatic gesture. It was the softness in their expressions, the way Becky's steps slowed, the way Freen's lips parted just a little, the way everything around them seemed to blur. As if the room disappeared. As if they forgot the cameras. As if they were the only two people in the hall. The audience watching from home lost control. Social media exploded. Clips spread in seconds. Fans were screaming, analyzing, replaying. The hashtag was trending within minutes. People wrote that the look felt like recognition, like relief, like something unspoken finally surfacing. Others swore they saw Becky blush. Some insisted they saw Freen smile in a way she never smiles for anyone else. The staff seated Becky right beside Freen. It was unplanned, unscripted, and completely out of the blue. The room fell silent for them again when Becky gently brushed her gown aside and sat down, their arms only inches apart. Freen shifted slightly to give her space, but her eyes lingered on Becky for a heartbeat longer than necessary. Not romantic, not dramatic, but undeniably intimate. The host began announcing categories, but fans hardly paid attention. All eyes were locked on the two women sitting side by side. The close-ups were even more revealing. Freen leaned closer when Becky whispered something. Becky's face softened when Freen laughed quietly. When the camera accidentally caught them sharing a glance again, the crowd erupted. Then came the backstage moment that would take the night from surprising to unforgettable. During a commercial break, Freen stood up to fix her mic pack. Becky also stood, adjusting her gown. They ended up next to each other by the curtains. Staff were rushing around. Sound team members passed by. But fans who captured the moment said that when Freen reached to fix a loose piece of hair behind Becky's shoulder, Becky froze, then turned toward her with a look that said far more than words ever could. Freen's expression softened. Becky's eyes lowered, and when she looked up again, they held each other's gaze in a quiet, impossibly tender moment that didn't need words. When they returned to their seats, both seemed calmer, almost lighter, as if something between them had settled. By the end of the night, they left the venue separately, but fans noticed one very important detail. Becky stepped into her car. Freen walked toward hers, but before getting inside, Freen glanced toward Becky's vehicle with a small, private smile. Becky looked back at her through the slightly open window. 2 cars, 2 directions, but one moment of connection that answered every rumor. The look that changed everything. Fans replayed the night's events endlessly. Analysts broke down their eye contact frame by frame. Clips of Becky blushing reached millions within hours. Makeup artists who worked the event posted cryptic messages, saying they had seen more than they could say. And insiders whispered that what happened tonight was only the beginning. In the days that followed, articles surfaced claiming the two had been spending more time together backstage during their schedules. Crew members said their chemistry was even stronger off camera. And while neither of them made a public statement, fans agreed on one thing. Sometimes, love doesn't need words. Sometimes, one look is enough. And for Freen and Becky, that look became the moment that changed everything. The next morning, the industry woke up to headlines, theories, slowed down videos, and thousands of comments dissecting every second of Freen and Becky's eye contact. But while the internet was burning with speculation, only 2 people truly understood what that moment meant. Freen woke up to her phone vibrating nonstop. Notifications piled in, articles, edits, fan comments, and messages from friends asking, "Is it true?" She didn't open any of them. Instead, she lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying that single look from the night before. Because in that look, there was something she hadn't seen from Becky in a long time. Softness, warmth, a sense of familiarity she thought she'd lost. Meanwhile, Becky had barely slept. She had sat in her hotel room, replaying the same 3-second clip over and over. The moment she looked at Freen, her entire expression had changed, completely unintentionally. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't for the cameras. It was real. And that terrified her. Becky paced around the room, running her hands through her hair. She'd spent months trying to separate herself from the rumors, trying to create space, trying to protect both of them from the industry pressure. But one look, just one, destroyed every wall she'd built. And maybe she didn't hate that. By noon, their management teams had already sent messages demanding clarification, reminding them to be careful, warning them about the sudden surge in speculation. Their phones buzzed nonstop, but neither replied immediately, because both were thinking about the same thing. Should we talk about this? Hours later, Freen finally stepped outside. She wore a cap, mask, and oversized sweater, keeping her head down as she walked to the cafe 2 blocks away, a place only the closest people in her life knew she loved. She wasn't expecting Becky to be there, but she was. Becky was sitting alone by the window, staring at her untouched drink, tapping her fingers nervously against the table. When she looked up and saw Freen, her eyes widened, not with surprise, but with something far deeper, as if she had been waiting. Freen froze for a moment, stunned. This wasn't planned. They hadn't messaged each other. They hadn't called. It was pure coincidence, or maybe something stronger pulling them together. Becky gave a tiny, hesitant smile. "You came," she said softly. Freen swallowed, her heart racing. "You're the one who's here." They both stood awkwardly for a moment, unsure of how to begin. But finally, Becky gestured to the seat across from her. "Sit." Freen nodded and slowly took the chair. The air between them felt thick with unspoken questions, lingering emotions, and months of everything left unsaid. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. No cameras, no staff, no spotlight, just Freen and Becky, 2 people who had been trying to deny something they didn't fully understand. Freen took a breath. "About last night." Becky bit her lip. "I know." Freen's voice lowered. "That look, you didn't hide anything." Becky looked down at her hands. "I didn't mean to. It just happened. And it made the whole world lose their minds." Becky let out a small, nervous laugh. Yeah, I saw. Silence fell again, not uncomfortable this time, but heavy with truth. Finally, Becky lifted her gaze, her eyes shining with something fragile and honest. Freen. I wasn't acting. Freen's breath hitched. Neither spoke for a few seconds. Then Freen whispered, I know. The world outside the window moved on, cars passing, people talking, life continuing, but inside the cafe, time seemed to slow. For the first time in months, they weren't idols, co-stars, or the center of online theories. They were just two people facing a truth they could no longer ignore. Becky leaned forward slightly. Tell me the truth. What did you feel when I looked at you? Freen's answer was quiet, but unwavering. Everything I've been trying not to feel. Becky's eyes softened. So what now? She asked. Freen exhaled slowly. Now, we stop running. The weight of those words settled between them, warm and terrifying and hopeful all at once. Because whether they were ready or not, that look had changed everything. And deep down, they both knew there was no going back.